everyone, thanks so much for tuning into Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, we're reviewing Onyx Storm today. Unpopular opinion time. It was just okay. You should have seen the looks, my friends, who all gave it like 4 or 5 stars. The looks they gave me. They're like, my friend Gina, she's like, we can't be friends anymore. I'm like, come on, girl. It was okay. I liked it better than Iron Flame. And you know what? I will say this. I will say this for Rebecca Yarros. I am so glad she listened to the fans, because you can tell she's listening to us. Because she poked fun at the most problematic part of Iron Flame, and that being the toxic codependency between Xaden and Violet. That was by far the worst part of Iron Flame, the whininess. So I will say, I will applaud Yarros on that, because I thought that was one funny. And I'm like, great, she acknowledges what was wrong with book 2. So this is her attempt to fix it. And I do think she does fix it, honestly. I do think that the relationship between Xaden and Violet does grow. I do like a broody man. I always love a broody man. I love broodiness. But it had like a good balance a little bit. Honestly, if I had to really equate it to something, I would say they reminded me a little bit of Tifa and the Cloud, even though I'm a Cloud and Aerith shipper all the time, every day. That's the from Advent Children. There we go. They were totally Tifa and Cloud from Advent Children. Is my inner nerd showing yet? So that's how I would equate the relationship in this book. And that's probably why I liked it a lot more as well, because there's still a lot of angst between them, especially after the events of Iron Flame. If you haven't read the book by now, I'm not about to spoil it for you, but after those events, you understand why there's so much angst and tension between their characters. But at least they're kind of there for each other more so than they were in the previous book. So I will say the relationship develops better. It matures, and there's a reasoning that makes sense for the tension between them in this novel. That being said, I was still bored out of my ever-loving mind reading this book. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. I mean, I had put it off for 2 months because there were other books that I wanted to read more so than that one, because again, I wasn't impressed by Iron Flame, so it was like kind of putting it off. I'm like, you know what, no, let me actually read it, so that way everyone can get off my back. You know who you are. But I was just bored. It felt like a whole lot of nothing happened, even though some important things did happen. They're, going to the different continents. We find out Andarna's breed. She's an Irid, just so you know. I'm only going to tell you that. But that part I thought was really, really interesting. I think I wanted to see more of them traveling, because I love when, you have a fantasy and they start traveling. I would have liked them to travel a little bit more. They're pretty much hopping from island to island outside the continent, and what's really interesting is there's no magic outside the continent. So other than Violet, she's the only one who can communicate with her dragons. Everyone else is like wall blocked. So then there's this whole question of why is Violet the only one, and it connects to a plot twist that happens later in the book that I was just like, oh, that's a really cool plot twist. Didn't see that coming, wasn't even on my radar, right? I formed no theories of this book because I didn't want to be disappointed or see something coming. So I will say that there were parts of the book that did surprise me. However, a lot of the battle brief scenes were a little too long and a little too tedious, in my opinion. I don't mind battle brief scenes. I've read books. I'm a high fantasy reader, so whenever there's like war or battle brief scenes, I don't mind them. but usually they're spread out more in the book. They were a little too close together, and they felt a lot like info dumping, and I'm just sitting there and I'm struggling to read it because I'm just bored out of my mind. I'm like, oh my god, this is boring. This is boring. It just felt like a lot of info dumping to me. I don't think that those battle brief scenes were unnecessary. However, I think Yaros could have written them in a different way to make it a little bit more engaging. You know, I think a lot of what goes on in Violet's head internally, I think if it had been external, it would have added a little bit more excitement and a little bit more tension in the storytelling, and it probably would have made me less bored. If there were more tension in the scenes, yes, we get it. The Griffins, no one likes the Griffin writers, we understand that, but if there had been a little bit more tension outside of that, in them adding more to the battle briefs, I think I would appreciate that a little bit more. Because there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on. I'm not going to dispute that. And I think the battle briefing scenes were a time for Yaros to really slow down the story and really pull you back into it. But for me, they just didn't work that way. They were very, very boring. I think all the island hopping went too fast. I think the battle brief scenes should have been shorter. And I think them going from island to island to island, I think those scenes and exploring the different gods and exploring those different cultures, I think I would have liked a little bit more of that because it would have added some more world building without info dumping it. I think so much more could happen on these islands. I'm fascinated by these islands. I wanted a little bit more exploration on the islands, but they're all just like blip, 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 blip. So I think she should have swapped her attention, Yaros. I think she should have devoted a little bit more time to their time outside the continent and on these specific islands, and a little less time on the battle brief scenes. And I think she should have spread out those battle briefs a little bit more. I mean, I started physically reading that, but because it was like struggling to hold my attention, I ended up just audiobooking it. And this was the book I really just wanted to read. You know, I wanted to read it physically. I ended up having to audiobook it, which I did not want to do, but it was just a struggle. I could not hold my attention. Mind you, right before that, I had read I had read Songbird in the Heart of Stone. I devoured that book. We're full review to come, but that just shows you, you know, when I'm into something, I don't need to audiobook it, versus when I'm not into something that I do want to read, I have to push myself a little bit more to read it, because it wasn't DNF worthy, you know? It was definitely worthy of reading, but, yo, I was bored. I was bored. And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, and that's okay. Again, I already faced it with my friends. They're just looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And I'm just like, I'm sorry. I was bored. I wanted more to happen. So it was okay. It was better than book 2. That last quarter of the book, it was like bam, 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 bam. And oh god, that was good. I really enjoyed that last quarter of the book. So I am looking forward to book 4, considering how this one ended. Like, I need answers. I need Yaros to continue this momentum. And I'm glad she's taking a break so she can really deliver a good book. So I'm all for waiting, 2 years. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Overall, I gave it a 3.5. I liked it more than book 2, which I think I was being generous with that by giving it 3 stars. I think if I had to rank it right now, it's like a 2.5. Yeah, and this was a 3.5 because I did like it. I did think it dragged a lot. I did think there was lots of info dumping. But I liked how the characters grew. I like that we're not dealing with this toxic codependent relationship anymore, and there was some maturity there. And I liked exploring the realm outside of the continent. So I'm hoping we're going to get to see more of that. And with the Venin That was really cool. I really like the Venom. I feel like the female, whose name I'm not going to begin to pronounce, I feel like she's like my spirit animal a little bit. Sith Lords! She's more like a Sith Witch, if you had asked me. So it was okay. Not by any means like the best thing ever, no. But it was okay. Better than book 2, not as good as book 1. So 3.5. Yeah. That's just my opinion. Thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.